I do believe that we have to be very cautious because when you said at the end of your words, you said that the spirit will be victorious and Jewish nationalism will be victorious, and that has to be enhanced. I think the spirit of Jewish nationalism, it doesn't use the language of the Middle East. I mean, we've come here. I don't even think in the times of the Palmach we use Middle East language, but that is, again, it's a whole different discussion. And I'm very happy that, I mean, you sounded and you voiced your opinions, but I don't think we can adopt a solution of, again, taking that Middle East maybe approach that is alienated from our approach. I want to talk about emigration from Gaza or leaving Gaza from three different moral perspectives. I don't know if I'll manage to talk about all of them, but let me already let you in on the solution that a great, again, part of, again, that emigration of the residents of Gaza is a crucial component for the future. And any, again, operation that opens up that opportunity for such massive emigration is a moral one. מה קרה?
הוא רוצה לקחת את המסך כדי להתחיל את המעבר.
טוב.
כמה דקות נדמה.
I actually worked with Rabbi Ben Yelon. It was called the Israeli Initiative, and again, one of the components of there was again restoring or having helping again the rehabilitation of the refugees. I think the refugees from 1948 again is in an ailment because what happened on the 7th of October has to do with again maintaining that refugee ship, as you can call it, or that situation of perpetuating the state of being a refugee. It all goes back to back then. Let's talk again about practical morality. Let's talk with that. Before we talk about lofty values and ideologies, which are often again discussed when having a moral discussion, let's talk about being practical. What is the most practical way to stop the bloodshed? What kills us and what again sheds the blood of our enemies as well, and also the blood of those that are called uninvolved. So again, what is the solution for the day after? So one solution that is being discussed is again rehabilitating or restoring again the Gaza Strip under some sort of PA administration with some sort of supervising mechanisms of sorts. Another solution is to build again the Gaza Strip and leaving it under Israeli security. But again, taking those two possibilities into account, we know that the bloodshed will continue because the resistance, as the Palestinians call it, the resistance won't go anywhere. It won't disappear. It will be restored. If Israel won't be there, that violence will keep growing and growing. We'll get more terrible rounds of atrocities. More blood will be shed. But even if Israel is there, as the Prime Minister keeps saying, and he insists on saying, and I hope that he again insists on saying it further, even if Israel is still there, blood will continue to be shed because IDF will have to maintain some sort of a policy of sort of mowing the lawn, as I call it. What does it mean? We will kill, Arab residents will be killed. Of course, soldiers will be killed. Of course, there will be pressure to leave Gaza because it's terrible. We'll call it the Gaza mud. And of course, that blood, the shedding of blood will become a vicious circle. And everything that we had learned from the terrible catastrophe of Simchat Torah will be for naught. We'll find ourselves back in square one. The only solution that ensures some sort of a horizon of peace in the most simple sense, meaning that there will be no war, blood won't be again shed, is again to distance that population that wants to kill us to remote places. And only in this way their kids won't be shaheeds and our kids won't be victims. This is the only solution to bringing peace and to bring maximum security. Even if you're not able to distance most of them, the minute there's that massive departure or emigration, there'll be less resistance, and the dynamics again will be more for peace rather than resistance and war. Very practical solution. Another moral perspective does, again, use more abstract terms. We're not allowed to, again, evacuate big populations from its homeland. It might bring quiet and peace. It's something that cannot be done. It's morally wrong. But this is a very prevalent attitude, by the way, even among ourselves. And now I'd like to sort of, hold up a sort of a red flag and say, forcing immigration was termed in the 60s by international community as a crime against humanity. That's the Rome Convention, by the way. Although at the end of the Second World War, they called it the exchange of population, and it was considered to be a great tool for bringing about peace to many places. However, later on, will change the taste somewhat. And of course, there's great logic in it, because uprooting people from a homeland is no simple matter. It's often used as a tool by empirical repressing powers. And of course, a world that is against, transfer of population. I prefer living in such a world. However, and there are a few big howevers, nobody talks about, again, forced emigration or forced transfer of population. Now, talking about opening the gates of Gaza for massive immigration. Not only is it not a crime, but again, preventing such an immigration would be a crime, because the Gazans want to emigrate. Not all of them, of course, but a significant part, because during the 5 years prior to the war, about 300,000 young Gazans left the Gaza Strip, and not with the intention of coming back. We're talking about one out of each family, because every such wave of immigration, it was very complicated and very expensive. I mean, Gaza was a big prison back then, but even under those circumstances, many people emigrated. If it were only cheaper, the emigration would be so much bigger. And of course, the war itself, when a war is going on, citizens run away. They flee. So what is acceptable is to open up the gates in the face of that situation. So when, again, Ukraine was attacked, there was a whole flow, a whole stream of refugees. Moldova, Romania opened up the gate. I mean, it is only expected of a civilized state. Definitely those who have solidarity with those victims. So that is the norm. Except, of course, when it comes to the war of Gaza, suddenly the world does not expect Egypt to open up its borders. And even, Israel makes do with this, with Egyptian's policy. How come? Why is that? Because Egypt, just like many players on the international arena, they want to solve, in parentheses, in inverted commas, a problem. The Gazans are the victims at the end of the day. And, of course, the state of being refugees was perpetuated for a very for a simple reason, to create a different standard for the refugees, Arab refugees and all other refugees in the world. Just like like we saw at the end of the War of Independence, when UNRWA was founded and again maintained its status as the only body in the world unparalleled when it comes to its policy. UNRWA and UNHCR, that unlike the UNHCR that wants to again rehabilitate refugees, but not Arab refugees. Why? Because the purpose is for them to blow up in our faces. It's completely not moral. Ostensibly, maybe we could have, or maybe we should have sued Egypt for the fact that it has not opened up its gates to these people, instead of just condemning ideas of immigration. Let me just point out something, though. I mentioned it on a number of occasions because it was an eye-opener. 2008, I met with the head of the delegation of the European Union for the aid of Gaza, which was also under Israeli attack at the time. It was one of, again, those rounds, one of those infamous rounds. Anyway, I asked him, if you were so anxious for the fate of the Gazans, so instead of giving them bags of rice, open up your gates for them. And according to surveys, at least half of them will be happy to emigrate to your countries. And while I was talking, he actually, he laughed. He said, half? They're all dying to leave. They're all dying to leave Gaza. Just give them a place to go. So I said, no, why aren't you doing it? Don't you want to help them? And he said, oh, but then what will we do with the Nakba story? What will we do with their case, the Palestinian case? We'll be taking it away. We'll take away their excuses from, meaning he said it straight out. He confessed it straight out to me. The problem has remained a problem. It has been perpetuated as a problem so that they'll have an excuse. And the final thing that I wish to say, let's call it the ethics of war. Now I'd like to move over to a completely, almost contrary aspect. I talked about morality from the private sphere, the Gazan individual, the refugee, and maybe even the fact that often, if even if he's an innocent, he could be a supporter of terrorism. Let's say that person is not any of these things. But at the end of the day, when we move over to that national plane and the international sphere, it's not the same narrative. We're not talking about the individual. I think deterrence is a key factor on the, in the international arena. I think countries are committed to safeguard their citizens, again, by having a deterrence policy. Deterrence also, spares us bloodshed. What does deterrence mean? That means if a certain society uprises and wants to kill you, it is only appropriate that they'll have to pay some sort of price, that you will deter those people. And in this regard, as some of the previous speakers mentioned as well, it seemed that the most practical and efficient, again, deterrence against Hamas and Gaza, against the Iranian axis of evil, is to destroy Gaza completely. So again, if Gaza turns again into ruins, if Gaza cannot again be rebuilt, then there is hope. And also the Gaza communities, Israeli Gaza communities, will have some sort of hope. I think that will be the best deterrence that, again, Israel can use. I think that after God's defense mechanisms collapsed and all the deterrence was eroded. Now, if Gaza remains destroyed, or at least great parts of it will remain, some sort of a memorial site almost, so to speak, and cannot be rehabilitated again. Of course, we'll have to find a substitute place for the great population that was evacuated from there because of the war, and justly so. So I would say that mass immigration is the most moral solution. Now, since I only have 1 minute left, let me mention another moral perspective. Again, going back to our most basic intuition. I don't even know how we've lost it. And I think we have gotten used to a reality in which those who wish to kill us are allowed to share the habitat with us. Again, let's talk about the expression called coexistence. When two populations are even neighbors and they habitate the same area, even if there is a fence, they have to somehow both agree to coexist. If Reuben and Shimon are partners, are roommates, maybe they get along, maybe they don't get along, but you try to imagine a situation in which Shimon wants to kill Reuven and looks for the first opportunity to kill his roommate. Is it logical to keep sharing flats with him? Is it logical? I mean, it sounds crazy. It sounds insane, but this is exactly how we are living. Of course, technically speaking, Reuven can keep being his flatmate, but how can you live in the same house with somebody who wishes to kill you? One solution is to maybe tie him up, put him into handcuffs, guard him constantly, and and just keep watching him and not fall asleep. The second option is to pack your bags and not to shut your eyes for a moment because you know somebody wishes to kill you. But this is not a way to live. There's nothing moral about it. There's nothing appropriate about it, because when one of the parties doesn't acknowledge the right of the other one to exist, he cannot remain a partner. He has to go. Coexistence is a lofty ideology so long as it's mutual. You don't make peace with enemies. You make peace with those who want to make peace with you. And look at that. Again, we have two different options between, again, distancing the Gazans or something else. You know, by the way, repressing them or occupying them, it is also a type of defense mechanism, because even if you're we are very forceful when it comes with them, and we try to prevent them from attacking us, we still have to pay the price, because our soldiers have to die in the field. They die because we have to use, again, force to prevent people from wanting to do what they want to do. And when these are the options, so again, letting them leave and letting them emigrating is the most moral solutions, and it's for our children who are fighting, it's for our grandchildren, and for maybe future generations who will have to keep fighting if we don't distance our enemies away from us.